All right, so this is one of my favorite lectures, consciousness. And we're going to be talking about states of consciousness, sleep, sleep disorders, and also some consciousness altering drugs. So let's start off by taking a look at the difference between when you're awake and when you're asleep. So when you're actively awake, your brain produces beta waves. And you know that. When you're awake but your eyes are closed, your brain produces alpha waves. Okay? And so we don't need to know, it looks like I put an example here, but basically we just need to recognize that we have two different waves related to alertness. And so with the stages of sleep, there's kind of four major stages. The first stage is non-REM. And so this is where you have this transition from alpha to theta waves. And in stage two, it's also non-REM, but we only have theta waves. And you can see that here. Now, something that's important to know is that in stage two of sleep, there are sleep spindles and K complexes. And you can kind of see that here, right? And these are just distinct features that characterize stage two sleep. Okay. And then during stage three sleep, it's still non-REM, and we have delta waves. And something that I do want to add is that during this time, you usually have night terrors, right? You'll have night terrors. And then stage four is where we have REM sleep. And these are where dreaming occurs. And this is also where paralysis occurs. Okay, so there's paralysis with certain body parts. And so one example is with your tongue. So your tongue kind of, when you're sleeping, your tongue kind of flops backwards a little bit. And that's oftentimes a problem for people with a narrow windpipe, right? They're unable to breathe properly at night. And so that leads into what we'll look at with sleep disorders. So a sleep cycle is about 90 minutes. And then you can see that as you sleep more, there's more dreaming involved, right? So there's more REM sleep. Okay. So let's talk about dreaming a little bit more. So dreaming does occur during REM sleep, as I said. Now, Freud, one of the famous psychologists, said that dreaming allowed us to sort through repressed wishes. So dreams contain both manifest content, right? So the stuff that you remember. Oh, you remember falling through the sky. You remember your teeth falling out. You remember taking a test and not knowing anything, right? And these are all dreams. And when you wake up, you think like, oh, thank goodness it didn't happen. But these events might also symbolize deeper meanings, and that refers to latent content. So these are unconscious wishes or hidden symbolic meanings. So, for example, teeth falling out. Maybe you're afraid of aging, right? Or concerned about your self-image. Okay, that's another term we'll take a look at later in sociology. Another thing that's important is an example that's important is like, oh, taking a test and not knowing any answers. Maybe you're anxious about your performance, or you feel that you're not prepared adequately. Okay. And there's some other theories on why we dream. One example is memory consolidation, right? You're transferring short-term memories to long-term memories at that consolidation process. Also, activation synthesis or randomness. So there is random neural firings, right, that cause dreams. And also, the third is cognitive theory. So, cognitive theory refers mainly to how our brain is wired, and it is really focusing on kind of cognitive psychology. Okay. So, you just need to recognize that there are other theories. And on the exam, you can easily encounter a passage that talks about one of these theories. Now let's take a look at some of the disorders. So insomnia is difficulty falling asleep. Most of us know that. We also have narcolepsy. So narcolepsy is excessive drowsiness during the day. So you can see that's image, right? There's a person who might be awake one moment and then suddenly asleep the next. So it's a really serious disorder. And if you drive while knowing that you have narcolepsy, that can easily lead to death. Okay, because that is very dangerous. Third, we have sleep apnea. And so these are short intervals when breathing stops during sleep. And so this might commonly occur during REM sleep where your tongue kind of flips backwards and kind of blocking your ability to breathe. Okay. Now, meditation and hypnosis are ways where we can alter a person's mental and conscious state, and it can be used for a variety of treatment options. Lastly, let's take a look at conscious altering drug classes. So we have depressants. These are used for relaxation and decreasing the activity of the central nervous system. And so an example of this would be alcohol, right? Hallucinogens alter perceptions and they cause emotional changes, okay? Now, these are different from delusions, which are false beliefs. Hallucinations are things that you visualize or there's an altered sensory perception. So when we're looking at hallucinogens, they create hallucinations. Stimulates are used for excitation, alertness, and so these increase activity of CNS. And so an example of this would be, for sure, caffeine, right? Cocaine, okay? Opioids are used for pain relief, right? So it's important that we recognize these four drug classes. You might be responsible for recognizing them on the exam. I mean, simple recall question. So now let's take a look at addiction. So with these drugs, right, it can lead to addiction. And the primary neurotransmitter involved is dopamine, and it's related to wanting, right? You want it more and more and more. And repeated use of these drugs cause drug tolerance. And that means that more of the drug is needed to cause the same response, right? Because your body is so used to the drug that you just need more and more and more and more and more. And that creates that cycle of addiction. And also, another term that you might see, it's called withdrawal. I don't have it here, but it's basically symptoms that you encounter when you stop using the drug, right? That, when you stop using a drug, you have to slowly back off from it instead of suddenly stop in many cases. All right, well, make sure that you study this lecture. It's a very important lecture, and I hope everyone, or I will see everyone in the next one.